Hello, good day to you. It is time for my daily devotional. Welcome. For those who are joining this for the first time, we're working our way through Proverbs, verse by verse. We're currently in chapter 4, verse 25, and I'm just going to read that. We're going to have a little bit of talk. These last few verses of Proverbs that we've been working through since around verse 19 or 20 are a set of thoughts that are connected to each other around this idea of pursuing the ways of God and the wisdom of God as a sort of a holistic thing, as something that you should do with all of your life, all of your, and you should apply God's ways to all of your life. And the idea is given through the imagery of the body. And so, guard your heart, watch your eyes, watch your mouth, watch your feet, watch your hands. And so all these body images meant to represent different parts of our life and how we should be careful to apply God's word to every part of our life in these different aspects. So that's what we've been looking at, and we're now at verse 25. So let's just take a moment to read that. It says, "Let your eyes look directly ahead, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you." So the idea here, once again, using the symbolism of the eyes and making sure that you're looking straight ahead, right? That you're paying attention, and that's the idea, isn't it? Pay attention, focus on where you're going, and don't let yourself get distracted by things to the side, right? Look directly ahead. Don't look to the sides. Let your gaze, right? So you think about somebody gazing, like staring, fixed in front of you. And so it gives this image not merely of a casual looking ahead, but of a very deliberate, a gazed focus. I'm not going to take my eye off that. And you can almost imagine like a hawk or something coming down upon its prey, and it just got its eyes fixed on the target. It knows exactly where it's going, kind of like that. And this, of course, being applied to the idea of learning God's teachings and God's wisdom and God's ways for our life. And so that's what it's talking about. Now, we've been talking about the holisticness of this and understanding that it fits in the whole category. And so yesterday we talked about the mouth, our interactions, our relationships. And the day before that, our heart, our inner self, and what kind of fuels everything else in our life. And so then today it's our focus. So the first question, we do our 4 questions. And our first question today might be, how does this fit in that holistic theme? Well, so yesterday we talked about our mouth and how, and our interactions with people, our relationships, how it's fueled by what we allow our heart to be. So we reference how the Bible teaches that out of the treasures of your heart is what comes out of your mouth. Eventually, it comes out of you into your relationships with people. You just can't help it. It will eventually get there. Even if you live deceptively, eventually it's just going to come out. And so, avoid living deceptively. Just be genuine. And if you do that with a good heart, it's all going to go together. Well, in a similar way, today, our focus and our eyes are connected to those other 2 things as well. And if you think about the idea that out from your heart, from your inner person, flows everything else, but from your mouth flows your relationships. Well, from your eye, your focus is kind of like what comes into your life and where you direct yourself. And so the idea, if I direct myself toward a good goal, and if I stay on that, like the goal of being godly, and I stay on that course and don't let myself go off course, then as I pursue that, then it will fill my heart. I'll take into my life that goal. It'll fill my heart more and more. And of course, out of my heart, flow into my relationships and so else. So Jesus once said it like this. If we look in Luke chapter 11, verse 33 to 36, Jesus said this. He said, "No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it away in a cellar, nor under a basket, but on the lampstand, so that those who enter may see the light. The eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is clear, your whole body also is full of light. But when it is bad, your body also is full of darkness. Then watch out that the light in you is not darkness. If therefore your whole body is full of light, with no dark part in it, it will be wholly illumined, as when the lamp illumines you with its rays." And so Jesus is saying here, it's like your eye is like a light for your inner person, right? For that heart, for the inner you, it's like a light. And if you if you have a bad eye, if you're looking at the wrong thing, if you're looking into the darkness, ungodly ways, then it's like closing off that light. It's like darkening the light, so your whole inner self becomes filled with darkness. But if your eye is filled with light, right, and fills your body with the good light, it becomes like that lamp in a house, and it lets you see clearly, and it lets you fill your inner man with that heart of yours with goodness. So the idea here is, as you focus on the goodness, you will bring it into your heart, and as your heart is filled with goodness, it will come out of your mouth. And so you see the interconnection of all these things, right? So question 2. So how does my eye fill me with light? How's that happen? Well, the idea is whatever you focus on is what's coming in. So your eye is actually, it is your focus and direction you're moving in, but it's like in the same way that I guess our mouth can be an in thing as well. We consume light through our eyes. Our ears consume sound, right? And it comes into us. And so if you focus on something, you become more and more like it. You head towards it. Wherever you're looking, you head. It's just kind of the way it is. Even physically, by the way, if you're riding a bike and you look this way, you'll have a tendency to steer the bike in that direction. So, in your life, if you're focusing your life on falsehood, well, then you will eventually be filled with falsehood. If you're focusing your life on evil, you will eventually be filled with evil. If you focus your life on gossip and scandal, you will eventually find your life filled with scandal and gossip. And it's just like that. If you focus on lust or greed or anger or hate or whatever it is, if that's what you fill your eye with, then naturally you're going to fill your heart with that, and then it's going to come out in everything. One of the great cautions we can use to many of the causes of our day, if you fill your mind with that, even if you're, by the way, a victim of something, and you fill your mind with that victimhood, well, then you just remain a victim. That's what you will remain, because you're just filling your mind and your life with that. If we fill our eyes instead with the things of God, then it fills us in the inside. And so it's just a natural tendency of what you look at, you eventually pursue, and what you pursue, you eventually get. And in a way, whatever you look at becomes a lens to your whole life. And everything else you look at starts to look like that thing. It's almost like you end up putting glasses on or something, and like everything from then on just looks like the thing you've been focusing on. Even if it isn't, it'll just tend to start to look that way to you, because it becomes a bit of a lens for everything else. And so that leads us to question 3, which is, well, what do I mean by that? How can what I look at become a lens? Like if I just look at a tree, it doesn't become a pair of glasses on my eyes. Well, no, not entirely, but the analogy works. If you think about it this way, if you look at the sun, if you're driving along and you look at the sun, and then you look away, what do you see? Well, for a minute, everything else is dark, and all you see is the white spot of the sun still in your vision, sort of embedded itself in your vision. Same way if you're in a dark room. If you're in a dark room and you suddenly come out into the sun, well, what do you see? Well, for a minute, you don't see much but darkness, because the effect of that is still lingering, right? And so, in a sense, it's like that. Is that whatever we tend to direct ourselves to, it has a lingering effect on everything else that we look at. And the more we look at anything, the more the lingering effect will be on the other parts of our life. And so, the more you obsess about something that's not so good, the more everything else is going to look like that thing to you. And you can just try this in your own life. You'll see it happen if you just take a look at your own life, which leads me to question 4. Question 4 might be, what is an example, like a very practical example of this? And I would say, well, it's like when you were young, or if you're still young, it's like it is right now for you. You know what it's like when you see someone and you're attracted to them, and you start to think, hey, I'd like to have that person. I can remember when I was young. You see some young lady, and it's like, oh yeah, she's amazing, and you want to pursue this person you have seen, right? You see her and you want to pursue her. And there it is. The focus starts, and you start to focus more. You start to notice her whenever you see her somewheres, or you try to be places where she's going to be so that you can spend some time with her. And eventually, what do you know? You only have eyes for her. You start to not see anybody else. All other women are not nearly as interested. All other pursuits are not nearly as important, and you only have eyes for her. And before long, you start to maybe have a bit of a relationship with her. And as that time goes on, your love is blind. It can't see anything wrong with her. It's just great. It's all good. Everything's wonderful. And eventually, you can say to people, well, she caught my eye. So it's all a bunch of non-biblical proverbs strung together there, a bunch of cliches, but do you get it? Like, do you get it? Like, that's kind of how it works. Like, that's just a very simple, very, very emotional example that we probably all have experienced at some time, or at least most of us have experienced at some time. The obsession that can occur as you desire something and you look at it and you can't see anything else. And even when you're not supposed to be thinking about that, you just can't help yourself but think about it. So, like I said, there's a lot of examples, lots of things I'm sure you've desired. Maybe if you're a little older and you've gone through the romantic years, and maybe now it's some boat or some motorcycle or something you want, or something, and you just sort of keep thinking about it. And maybe it's, you've got every day you kind of look at a picture on the internet of, oh, I'd like that, that's the one I want. Or you want to go to a show, it shows them off, or something like that. Those are very simple examples, but the same principle applies to our life. If you put God and his ways in the center of your eyes and pursue that, you'll do well. If you don't and you get distracted, then the holistic value of God's ways will be lessened significantly, because your eyes will be distracted to something else, and increasingly you will drift. So that's the idea. So for you today, are your eyes on the good goal of God and his ways, or have you been allowing yourself to get distracted by other things? And I just encourage you to bring your attention back to God. And Lord, I ask you to help us do this as always. We need you in this pursuit. God bless you. Lord willing, we will see you tomorrow for verse 26. Have a good rest of your day.